All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hopefully you guys are all logged in. If you are there, can I get you to chuck a comment on there just so I know kind of who's watching? Make sure you can hear me. Is the audio? I know on Sunday we had some issues with background music and like a crazy weird echo. So if there's anything weird, let me know. Um, yeah, and it'd be awesome if you're there. Just put on a little chat, message me, say, "Hey, I'm here, I'm watching," just so I can have an idea of who's there. Oh, Heather, good to see you. Good morning, Heather. Oh, I need to call you today. Actually, I'll give you a buzz later today. Um, who we got? Oh, Ben. Kia ora, Ben. Hope you guys are doing well over in the Tron in Hamilton. Yeah, lockdown's a weird thing, but I'm glad you guys have got a good space where you're at. Oh, Michelle. Oh, good morning, Michelle. Good to see you here. Who else we got here? Morning. Oh, it's Haley. Nice. Hi, Haley. She's watching from the kitchen. Oh, Colleen. Hey, g'day. Up in Foodle. I'm assuming that's either Richard or Okya. Good to see you, Richard. Okya. Oh, cool. Roger, Pam. Good to see you guys this morning. Oh, cool. We got some good faces. I really miss seeing you guys, but I'm glad that we can have these little touch points throughout the week. Yeah, Colleen says happy hump day. That is very, very true. We are coming up to almost 1 week in lockdown. How you guys doing? You surviving? Everybody alive in your household and doing okay? You're running out of ideas of things to do with your kids yet, Colleen? I hope you've got plenty of ideas. It's pretty mental. Um, oh, it's Dave logged in from Infoodle. Okay. Oh, we got Brooke. Kia ora, Brooke. Good to see you. Hope you guys are doing well. Um, awesome. Cool. Well, look, we've got a few people here. And why don't we just jump right into it? If you want to, now's your chance to grab a cup of tea, grab a cup of coffee. Hopefully this will be not like too long or too in-depth, but also really practical. And a cup of tea always helps things go by well. So what we're going to do this morning is we are going through a series called, let me make sure this works. Hey, it does work. We're going through a series that's called Abide. And the reason that we're doing that is because I want us to have a chance to talk about prayer together. Now, prayer is one of those tricky things that usually we're too busy for, right? Like there's 1,000 things we got to do. We got to do work. We got to go to workouts. We've got to message everybody that we need to. And there's like this long list of things. And really, very often prayer gets pushed down to like the bottom of that list, if we're honest. But what I've been thinking is now that we're in lockdown, all those excuses are disappearing. And it's pretty hard for anyone to say that you are too busy to pray. I think the only people who have a chance at saying that are like, and maybe I'm biased because I'm saying this, but like parents with children, particularly early childhood, where you don't get a break. And when you get a break because they're napping, you're usually napping. So maybe there's a little bit of grace. Like for you, Colleen, I'll give you a little bit of wiggle room. But for everybody else, no grace. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what lockdown looks like for you. But I've just been thinking like lockdown has changed our entire life structure. The routines and the schedules that we're used to are now unavailable to us, where our normal work days and the traveling and the commuting, all that is different. And what I've been thinking about a lot this week is how do we build new rhythms that sustain us during lockdown? Moments of kind of spirituality that still carries us on our day to day. And the reason I want us to talk about prayer is because if there was ever a time for us to build prayer into our daily rhythm, now is the time. Hey, Lynn Schumacher, good to see you. Colin finally learned to chat. Well done on you for overcoming that technology gap. You're amazing. Good to see you here. But yeah, if there was ever a time where we could learn how to build prayer into our life and schedule it in as a key part of our day, lockdown is the time to do that. And so I'm really keen for us to be able to have that chance to build prayer into our lives and make it really integral again. But I also recognize that when I say, hey, you should pray more, that can get complicated. And if you're anything like me, it can be really hard to know where to start. You might be able to carve apart some part of your day and sit down, and then you sit down in like a couch or a table or going for a walk, and you just don't know where to start. You don't know what to do. And so my hope is that this prayer series is really practical and gives you some really practical ideas of ways to pray that you can practice throughout each week. So hopefully each week I'll give you a mode of prayer, and then every day you can practice that for the week. It may work for you, it may not, but at least it gives you some direction and something to try as you build a moment of your day, whether it's at lunch, maybe it's at the end of the day, maybe it's first thing in the morning, but you build in a moment of prayer for you to do that. Good day, John and Sylvia. Hey, good to see you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that. And today we are going to talk about one mode of prayer, which is called Examen. Examen is I find it's arguably one of my favorite ways to pray. But to understand Examen and where it comes from and what it means, we need to go back to this guy today. Like, I get it. I've made that face. I've made that face every day. It was 15th century, like 1500s, Spanish soldier was wounded in battle and then was taken to like a convent or a nunnery to recover from his wounds. While he was in the nunnery, he has this powerful spiritual experience with Jesus. God comes alongside of him. He has this vision of the Father and Jesus, and the Father says to him, Jesus, take this man to be your servant. And Ignatius took that really seriously, and he then devoted his life to God, and he ended up starting a new monastic order. And that monastic order is called the Jesuits. And now you may be familiar with them, but they are one of the most influential, far-reaching monastic orders around the world today. They do a lot of things that a lot of orders do. They have vows of poverty, of course. They have vows to take a special care of the poor. They have simplified a lot of their structures. So one of the things that Ignatius wanted the Jesuits to be is he wanted them to be free to follow the call of God. And so he actually pulled away a lot of the bureaucracy that a lot of orders had before them, whether it's the Franciscans or the Benedictines. He pulled away a lot of those structures where they had to sing mass in those liturgical chants of Jesu Domine. He removed all that so that it was a lot simpler and it was a lot easier for people to perform mass. He simplified the structure, and then that way he could send them out all across the world. And one of the things that Jesuits are most known for is two things, is one, education. Jesuits all across the world have consistently been incredible at educating people, building seminaries, places of learning, places where people from the community can learn how to read and write, and they've done that really well. The other thing that was fascinating about the Jesuits is they were arguably one of the most missional orders the church had seen at that time. And they sent missionaries all over the world, to China, South America, Africa, and this was before like the modern missions movement when the evangelicals got onto the swing. So evangelicals got there on the 1800s with William Carey and Hudson Taylor, like with that kind of colonial wave. The Jesuits did it way before then, about 300 years before then, and they were sending missionaries right at the very, very beginnings of Western expansion. And what's fascinating about the Jesuits, especially, is that they did such a good job that they actually got in trouble with colonial powers. In South America, for instance, the Jesuits did such a good job of relating to and building connections with the indigenous people there that they regularly stood up against the crown for their abusive and terrible colonial practices. And they caused the crown so much grief that the crown complained to the Pope, and the Jesuits got disbanded for quite a few years because they were too kind and compassionate to the indigenous people, which I think is amazing. Other things Jesuits have done, if you know a bit about theology, it's Jesuits in Salvador that began the movement of liberation theology, which had its pluses and minuses, but one of the gifts that it gave the church was a reminder that God has a special care and interest for the poor. And they reminded, Jesuits in Latin America reminded the Western wealthy church that God cares deeply about the poor. And we're forever grateful for that. And Pope Francis, the current pope right now, is the first Jesuit pope in history. So this movement has kind of like ripples all the way through. But coming back to St. Ignatius, he developed this mode of prayer called Examen. And he developed it because he was sending so many people out on missions. His concern was that they would not pay attention to what God is doing in their context. And so he began to work, and he prayed, and he developed a mode of prayer so that his people and the monks who were out there could train themselves to pay attention to what God was doing. And essentially what Examen is it's a discipline of paying attention to where God is, what he's saying, and what he is doing. We've got, John Spencer. Hey, we're finally able to chat. Hey, from John and Vicky. Hey, good to see you guys. Great for joining on. Well done for overcoming the technology burden. It's awesome to see you guys. So Examen, it's a discipline that as you pray, it's supposed to train you to become aware of what God is doing, where he is in your life, and where are the gaps where you need him more. And if you listen to the live stream on Sunday, I was talking about that a lot for our season in lockdown, as we all are going to be facing more uncomfortable and difficult feelings within ourselves. I'm encouraging us to not push those away or just medicate them with food or Netflix, but actually work to pay attention to those and allow God's Spirit to meet us in the midst of that. So it's why I've picked Examen, because if you are at that stage where you're like, I want to learn how to pay attention, but I don't know how, this mode of prayer can be really helpful for you. And for me in my journey that I shared with my anxiety on Sunday, Examen has been really, really helpful for me. I regularly try to do it. I don't know if I get to it every day, but I try to get to it about at least once a week, once every couple of days, to keep training myself to pay attention to where God is at and what he's in the midst. And so Examen is a prayer discipline of paying attention. And what it is it's really simple. Basically, you sit down in a quiet space, in a calm space, and you just invite the Spirit to come. You open up your mind and your heart, and you just wait for a little bit until you can sense yourself just resting in God's presence. That might just be through some breathing. Some people like to light a candle. Other people like to put on just some instrumental music to help them kind of focus. Whatever works for you is totally fine. But you get together in this quiet place, and you just allow God to speak to you about your day. And there are 5 questions which you go through and allow him to kind of speak to you through that. So what we're going to do with each one of these Abide sessions is I'm actually going to encourage us to go through one of these together. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to work online. Hopefully it does. Who knows? No one knows what works and what doesn't. So I thought it's worth a try. So I would love for us to try this mode of prayer together in all of our different spaces. If you're at work or something and you can't do that, then that's fine. But if you're just you shouldn't be anywhere else but work. But carve out a space for yourself, even just for 10 minutes. It's all it's going to take just for God to speak to you. So before we go into that, in a moment, we're going to go through the Examen together, and we're going to have a chance to pray for this together. I just want to make you aware, on our website last night, I have built an entire page for all these prayer disciplines. And each week, I've got a PDF that's downloadable for you to access. So if you just head over to Want to Practice, and then there's a PDF that you can download. It gives you some of the context. This week for the Examen, it literally gives you a, ideas of how to keep that practice going in your own context. So just turn that off. If you want to try, can I encourage you to do that? So head over to our website. If you want these resources, you can find them there. Head to Abide, download the PDF for it. All right. What we're going to do now is a chance to actually pray together. We're going to go through the Examen together. It's not going to be as long as normally I would do it. Each of the moments are going to be a bit shorter and a bit kind of truncated. But the idea is to give you a taste. And if I can lead you through one mode of prayer, then you can practice more this week. All right? Should we give it a try? If that's not for you, that's fine. You can feel free to boost. But for those who want to, can I encourage you to just carve out a little holy space for yourself right now? Readjust yourself on the couch if you need to, or get some pillows around you so you feel comfortable. And let's move into a sacred space as I lead us through this Examen prayer. So can I encourage you, find your space and begin to just take some real deep breaths. Allow God's Spirit to just fill wherever you are. Breathe in and slow down. Become aware of His presence near you. Breathe in and breathe out. If you want to, you can grab a pen or a pencil if you want to journal or write this down, or you can just do it in your own mind and in your own headspace. But as we begin this prayer of Examen, let's just pray that God's Spirit will meet us. Holy Spirit, we invite you now across all of our different homes, into all of our different spaces, into the living rooms and the bedrooms where we are. Holy Spirit, I pray that you will turn each of those living spaces into sanctuaries, into temples, into holy sacred spaces where you meet with us. I thank you that your presence isn't confined to our church buildings, but you are with us everywhere. Spirit, as we begin to pray, I pray that you would begin to speak in, to, and through us. Amen. So as you're in that space, you can sense God around you. We're going to begin to reflect on the past day. Either pick a time frame. You can either pick the past day. You can think of yesterday. If you want to, you can think of a week. Think of this week of lockdown. And hold a certain time frame in your head. Okay? Do you have that time frame? It could be a day. It could be this morning. It could be a week. Get that time frame in your head and use that as the place that you're going to reflect and sit with. The first thing that I want you to do is, reflecting on that space, begin to pick out the moments where you need to give thanks. Moments where you saw God at work, things that you are thankful for. It can be as big as a huge answer to prayer, or as small as having sunshine and functioning internet. But whatever it is, take a few moments now, reflect on your week, and begin to find the moments of thankfulness and offer those up to God. Find what you need to be thankful for, and either write it down, what you're thankful for, or just give that to him in your own mind or out loud. Just say, God, I'm thankful for the sun, for the internet, for food, whatever it is. Take a few moments now just to offer up the thanksgiving to God. Just take a few more minutes, allow it to sit with you. What else are you thankful for? What has God been doing that you can give thanks for from this past time frame? You can do as many or as few as you want. Just develop that habit of looking for the things that you need to be thankful for. Start big and then just keep going. Just go small. Everything that you can think of, begin to offer it back up to God as thanks. Now we move on to the next phase. Having given thanks and recognized all the things and the blessings that we hold, I want to encourage us to begin to think with this next question. In your past time frame, whether it was the day or the week, begin to reflect and ask, you were you. When did you most feel like you were who you were meant to be? Begin to find those moments. Think about them. Reflect on them. Write them down if you need to. Pause and allow God's Spirit to open up your eyes. Particularly if this has been a hard week, this can be a life-giving moment, as God might begin to open up your eyes as the moments when you most felt God's love. Begin to reflect on that now, just for a couple of minutes. Write it down, offer it up to God. When did you most feel God's love? Don't worry if nothing comes to mind immediately. Just let it sit. Let it reflect. If you have nothing, that's also fine. There's no judgment in this space. You don't have to perform anything. Just reflect. When did you most feel God's love? Notice the patterns. Are there common moments where you most felt alive? Just give it a few more minutes, let it sit, and think, when did you most feel God's love? And as you think of those moments or write those moments down, again, add them up in thanksgiving. Offer them up to God as thanks, moments of joy that you can be glad for as you are reminded of his great love for you. This step can be particularly helpful for those of us who feel like we rush through and we go through things too fast and we find it difficult to know how do we build our spirituality. This question here and following the threads and tracing those moments, you can begin to look back and say, wow, I always felt most alive and most surrounded by God's love when I did this, this, and this. And it gives you a tool to think, oh, I should do more of that. Maybe it's not necessarily watching TV. Maybe it was reading a book. Maybe it was going for a walk. It gives you the ability to see how God meets you there and build more of that into your life. Build more of that into your schedule so you can spend more of your day living in that place where you are alive in God's love. This is where journaling with this prayer discipline is really, really helpful, because over a month you can go and look at those trends and see how God wires you so you know how to pray and build on your spirituality, because you can always go to the places already where there's life. So when did you most feel God's love? Now we're going to go into the next question. And yeah, it's working. This question is, when did I least feel God's love? So in your sacred space, in that space of calm and peace, begin to reflect on the day or the week, whatever time frame you've chosen, and begin to think, when did I least feel God's love? When did I feel furthest from him? When did I feel most alone? When did I feel most anxious? You don't have to fix it. You don't have to find any reasons for it. Just discipline yourself to begin to pay attention to those moments. Think and reflect on them. Allow God's Spirit to sit with you in it. Those moments of anxiety, those moments of fear, those moments of depression. Invite the Spirit to allow those, to lift those up and sit within you. And reflect on that. When did I least feel God's love? And allow his presence into that right now. So just take a few moments. You can journal it down. You can just do it in your mind. You can speak it out, whatever works best for you. But begin to reflect and offer that up of, when did I least feel God's love? Take a few moments to reflect on that now. Now, for some of you who may be quite positive people, it may be hard to find something here, as you've built a lifetime of trying to ignore those things. Don't rush. Don't feel bad if you can't think of anything, but just allow it to sit and invite the Spirit to maybe bring some truth or open up some life to you for that. Some of you may have more than lots of things. You may have lots and lots of moments where you felt like you were far from God's love. That is okay. Invite God's Spirit into that. You don't have to fix it now. You don't have to make it better. Just invite him into that and reflect on those moments. Think, when did you feel furthest from God's love? Part of this discipline is recognizing that you are human and that you have bad days and you have failings and you have faults and you have places where you've messed up or felt insecure. And this is a moment where you can allow God's Spirit to remind you that you are only human. He is God and you are not. Allow His love and His grace to begin to sit with you in those moments, reminding you that you do not have to be perfect, nor do you have to be the Savior for everyone or all things. It's okay to be frail. It's okay to be scared. These are the moments where you can lean on God and His Spirit to carry you. When did you least feel God's love? What's particularly helpful about this question, and normally if you were doing this on your own, at least when I do it, this usually could last anywhere from 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, easy, as I reflect and journal and put thoughts around what those moments are. But this question I found to be particularly helpful, especially considering what I talked about on Sunday, is that if you do have depression, anxiety, mental health problems and issues, this prayer, particularly when you've journaled it and you can trace it over a period of time, you can begin to spot trends like I did, noticing that I was so anxious with phone calls or those moments where I wasn't on a stage. This prayer mode helped me to notice that. And then it gives you a place to begin further questioning. Maybe that's a place you can go to with a spiritual director or a counselor or a therapist, and that becomes a discussion point. But this prayer gives you the tools to find those and actually begin to work with God constructively. So don't be afraid of that question. Sit with it. The next part of this process is, which moment will I offer up to God? Ignatius talks about honing in on one moment, whether it's a moment of joy that you can celebrate or whether it's a moment of fear where you felt far from God's love. You just offer it up to God. You allow God's Spirit to speak to you in it. Is there anything God wants to say about this moment? Is there anything He wants to speak to you about that encounter, that specific time that you want to offer up? And even if God doesn't say anything, you get to offer it up as worship, as, God, this is my life. I give it to you. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, or uncomfortable, you get to offer it up as a gift to God, saying, here, take my life and have it. I give this as a gift. So as we do this, reflect on one moment. Maybe it was in the positive things, or maybe it was in the negative things, but reflect on one moment that you want to give and just offer that up to God and give Him space to speak to you. Sit in stillness. You don't have to make anything happen. You don't have to force anything. Just sit and wait, offering it up as worship for what God might say or do with you in the midst of that. Let's take that moment and offer it up to Him now. And again, remember, you don't have to force anything. You don't have to drum up any emotions. Again, God does not need us to get ourselves into a hyper-emotional state to speak to us. You can just sit and be and allow the Spirit to be with you. You may feel an overwhelming sense of His presence and His grace and His love, or you may feel nothing. But know that God is with you in the midst of that moment. Whatever you offer up to Him, He's there with you. And He walks with you in it. Just offer that up to Him in worship. And again, when you do this on your own, that moment can be short. For me, in my own journey, that moment has often been quite long. Sometimes it's been filled with furious journal writing, as I just feel like God is unloading. I mean, for me, at least with my journey that I've been talking about with my anxiety and my own insecurities, the prayer at this moment was like pulling at a thread. And it was like God was just opening up all these moments, and I felt like I was just pulling at this thread and seeing it like intersect with all the different areas of my life. But there have also been moments where I've offered up just joy and worship, and there wasn't anything profound. I didn't have any grand visions. I didn't see writing in the sky, but there was just something really lovely about sitting with God, not having to say anything, not having to do anything, not having to be anything, not having to perform anything, just sitting with him. And that alone can be really beautiful and meaningful. Often prayer, we can get confused thinking we have to do so much or say so much. Usually most people who've done more and more prayer find that it's getting to a place of stillness and sitting with God that becomes the most profound moments in their lives. So we offer those moments up to God as worship. Then the final thing that this prayer requires and asks us to do is to begin to look forward. Look towards tomorrow or the next week or whatever time frame you've picked at. We've reflected on the last one. Now look forward to the next one. And be aware of the emotions that come with it. Do you have fear when you look ahead? Do you have joy when you look ahead? What do you need? What are your prayers for? This is a moment to ask and lay things down and pray for this next week. It's a chance to just kind of lay it down saying, oh, God, we've made it through yesterday, but tomorrow I need grace for my kids. God, tomorrow I need creative ideas about how to do this. God, tomorrow I need a breakthrough on how to get through this work problem. It gives you a chance to offer up all of your fears and your thoughts and place them into God's hands, knowing that he is in control. So take a moment now as you look towards look forward to whatever that next period is for you, and just give to God what you have and ask him if there's anything he wants to speak about the coming future for you. Maybe he wants to encourage you with something in your own heart, in your own mind. Now is the time also for you to be able to sit and listen and hear that. So take a few moments and turn towards tomorrow and give that to him. And again, don't feel like you have to rush. There's space, there's time. As you look towards tomorrow, don't get caught up in all the rush and the anxiety that tomorrow brings, but look at it from the place of peace and God's presence where you are right now. Don't lose that, don't exit from that. But from that place of peace, with God with you, offer up tomorrow to him. I find the great thing about finishing this way is it just gives you a chance to let go of control, to put things back into God's hands, and trust that really he does hold your life, our day, carried us through where we have been, and he will be faithful to carry us where we are going. And so hopefully it leaves us in a place of peace and security amidst the anxiety and change that's all around us, to trust in God and trust in what he's going to be doing in our lives. And that is a very short, quick, weird digital version of the Examen prayer. It's really simple. It's not too complicated. Again, on the website, I've got those 5 questions downloadable in a PDF format where you can just regularly go through those and implement them into your own daily habits or your daily rhythms. Oh, Chris Walsh. Eden, may God bless you as your room is shared to the world. I know, she's very kind. She had a nap this morning while Haley took her out for a walk because I've commandeered her space. I hope that was helpful for you. I want it to be really practical and give you an idea forward. For Ignatius and for those early Jesuits, this prayer became a tool where they began to recognize God's presence and God's activity in places where they never could have imagined it. They used this prayer when they went to the indigenous people of the rainforest in South America, and this prayer helped them to find God's activity in a space that was so foreign and so different from anything they had ever been through before. And that's why I think for us, as we live in lockdown and life is completely different and it's hard for us to find and know what God's doing when all of our normal rhythms are messed up, this prayer can be an incredibly helpful tool for us to still find God's presence and God's activity, even in the places where we hardly would have ever thought we'd seen it before. Colleen. Colleen says, amen. Love this way of questions. Never heard it that way. Yeah, I hope it's helpful. What I like about it is it gives you a structure and a format so you know what to do. You don't just sit at a table thinking, well, what do I do now? Like there's a process that you can go through, and it allows so much space for God to speak. Chris Walsh. Yes, it's amazing. I know, I really like it. I found it really life-giving. Brooke Rosie, that was really awesome. Thanks. Oh, cool. Hope it was helpful for you. Colleen says, Cara is thankful for birthday presents. Ha! Good girl. Look, that's fair enough. Honestly, we should all be more thankful for birthday presents. I think we kind of skip by those and we're like, oh, I guess I get one. Good on you, Cara, for reminding us to be thankful of the things that are important and mean a lot to us. I hope for you that this prayer will be helpful. One thing that this prayer is particularly helpful for is, if you are I mentioned this a bit, but if you are a naturally optimistic or positive person, this prayer can help you to recognize the shadow side of yourself that usually positive people try to bury because it makes them uncomfortable. And you can begin to find the moments of fear and anxiety, but you can engage with them in a safe, controlled way where God's presence is with you, and it allows you to become a more well-rounded individual. Likewise, if you are a more melancholic person, or you do struggle with depression and anxiety and find difficult finding positivity, a daily practice like this can also help train you to find the Thanksgiving moments, the moments where you have felt God's love. And that, for those who do struggle with mental health, those practices can be incredibly life-giving as you train yourself to find the moments of peace and joy where you feel surrounded with God's love. They may be few and far and in between, but you get better at noticing them. And the more you notice them, the more you can allow your life to revolve around them. So hopefully it helps everybody to become a little bit more well-rounded. What do we got here? Lynn Schumacher, thank you, so helpful. Awesome, really, really cool, I'm glad. Ben, wait, this isn't cooking with Colin. That's next, Ben, starting in 5. Thanks, Dave. Brooke Rosie's asking for enchiladas. Look, all right, I'll find some way to do a cooking thing with enchiladas. I don't know how to do that in Eden's room, but by week 4, I should have enough of the technology sorted to be able to do that. That was Tuesday. Ben, you missed it, Chris Walsh. Cooking, ingredients for the best cake. Oh, it's life. Oh, I see what you did there, Colleen. That was fancy. That was real fancy. Look, that's it for today. Can I encourage you, as a practice, with Examen, again, it's not going to work for everyone. Not every mode of prayer works for every person. But can I encourage you this week, you've got the time, we're all in lockdown, you can carve out a half an hour each day. Find a day where you go through this prayer. You can do it at the end of the day if that is helpful for you because your day is manic. You can do it at lunchtime because you may be too tired in the evening, and at lunchtime is a perfect point for you to reflect on the past 24 hours and look ahead to the next 24 hours. You can do it first thing in the morning as you reflect on yesterday if that's when you're freshest. But can I encourage you this week, try and practice the Examen prayer once every day and just see what it does. And next week we'll have a chance to just people to comment of how that was for them, whether it was helpful or not helpful. Again, please feel free to share this video. If you are watching this later, not live, can I encourage you, whatever your rhythm, whatever your practice is, can I encourage you to practice this as well? The resources will still be available on our website, so please feel free to do that. What do we got here? Last few one. Have a blessed day. See you, Colleen. Good to touch base with you. Dave, I can drop off a looming cable for the camera into your letterbox. Is that so that we can cook? That would be amazing. Yeah, I'm sure I could figure that out. Ben, awesome message, so practical. Cool, thanks, mate. I hope it helps you, Dave and Larry. Oh, Dad. Larry's my dad. Hi, Dad. I love you. It's my mom's birthday today as well, so we're going to call her later today. Happy birthday, Mom. So thank you so much for joining with us. We will see you next week as we again pray together with a different form of prayer again next week. So feel free to come along, and we will be praying every week. So I encourage you to find that space, grab that cup of tea, grab that journal, and get ready for us to build rhythms of prayer that will sustain us through lockdown. Love you guys all heap. May God bless you. May he keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you. And may he give you his peace. God bless, guys.